10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 96. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. If you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Nick Manella, and I'll be leading this short and concise jazz lesson for you that we come out with every single Friday. If you're new to the podcast, welcome in. We are glad that you are here. Remember that you can get all the PDFs to the podcast at our Patreon page, patreon.com/10-minute jazz lesson. Or you can find a link over there from our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com. That's the number 10, minutejazzlesson.com. And just follow any of our Patreon links to go over and grab the PDFs. We really appreciate all the support that you've been giving us, and we need more folks to sign up for Patreon. It's a minimum $3 donation per month, and we would really appreciate if you could go over there and help support us financially. There's a lot of expenses that going in to make this show, and we just need some of that, more of that money, unfortunately, to keep going. So head over there, show your support, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Also want to give a big shout out to our sponsor this week, Rejuvenate. If you are a woodwind player, any instrument that deals with cane reeds, you know how frustrating it is, especially this time of year. I got to tell you, around New England this week, the weather has been changing every single day. It's a different temperature. It's a different humidity. It is just awful for reeds. And in the past, I would have really been suffering with my reeds. But now that I use the Rejuvenate storage system, I got to tell you, I haven't had any problems with all the crazy swings in temperatures. It's been raining, it's been snowing, it's been doing everything that you could possibly imagine. And my reeds have stayed perfectly consistent throughout all of that, which really has never happened before in my life. So if you're interested in this reed storage system, I promise you will not be disappointed. Head over to their website, rejuvenate.com, or again, you can head over to our website and you can follow the link on the sidebar to check out their reed storage system. You're going to love it. So definitely check those guys out, and thanks to them for sponsoring the podcast this week. Okay, so let's jump into today's episode. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite musicians, Branford Marsalis. I was looking through some transcriptions I had of some of his solos, came across this great section over the bridge to Night in Tunisia. Now, if you're familiar at all with A Night in Tunisia, have played it before, have studied it a little bit, the A sections are actually pretty simple. It just kind of goes back and forth between two chords. The bridge, however, does move through some different keys. It's doing a lot of 2-5-1 movement, which we talk about a lot on the podcast. So I figured I would give you one of the bridges that Branford plays on his solo over this tune. And I think he demonstrates a lot of really great stuff with this particular bridge of this particular chorus that he plays on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually play it for you. I wish I could play the original recording, but that's kind of a big no-no. We get into copyright infringement and stuff like that. We don't want to mess with any of that. So you're going to have to hear me do a poor impression of Branford Marsalis playing over the bridge to Night in Tunisia. So let's check out what it sounds like, and then we're going to break down what he's doing that makes it sound so great. So pretty awesome stuff he plays over that bridge. So let's break it down. Make sure you have your PDF in front of you, and let's start right in measure 1. So the first chord that he has, and I'm going to be speaking in the key of concert B flat, just because that's the key that he's playing in, and we're dealing with a tenor saxophone solo, so it's going to be good to actually talk about it in context. And your PDF is actually going to be in that key as well, so it just makes sense for us to talk about it in the key that he's playing it in. So we see an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 as our first chord. And one funky thing that happens in this measure, he starts up on a C natural, which is the flat 5. Then he goes to the major third. So this might be something where you're thinking, wait, why is he playing the major third over a minor chord? Well, he's actually not treating it as the major third. He's actually using it as a chromatic approach tone to the minor third, because right after that, you're going to see that he uses that minor third. Then he comes down into the 5 chord, pretty straightforward over this B7 flat 9. He plays right down the scale, right? So 5, 4, 3, flat 9, 1. Then he moves to the 7. Now, when we're playing over this E minor chord that comes in bars 3 and 4 of the bridge of this tune, he does an awesome thing. He really highlights the 6 over that chord. So typically, this is not even written as a minor 6 chord, but Branford treats it that way. And this is like one of my favorite notes over a minor chord, is hanging out on the 6. It's just such an interesting sound that you can use over a minor 7 chord, and it's really it's very interesting sounding because it is a half step away from the 7, which the piano player, the guitar player, or whatever comping instrument you're playing with is almost certainly playing the 7. So if you play the 6, it almost sounds a little bit off-putting, but in a really, really interesting way. So the next time that you're playing over a minor 7 chord, try hanging out on the 6 and see if it's a sound that you like or not. If you look back into jazz history, there's a lot of really great musicians that love to use this. So in particular, Cannonball Adderley loves to use this over Autumn Leaves, over the minor chord in that tune. And actually, the entire introduction to Autumn Leaves is built off of that 6th over the minor chord. So it's definitely something that people use. People love to use. You should try using it and see if you like the sound of that 6. But Branford does that all through bars 3 and 4 of the bridge over this tune. Now, measure 5 is a really interesting one because Branford does a great job of showing us how something really, really simple and basic can sound awesome. So all he's doing over this E minor 7 chord is he's playing 7, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 7. So he's literally just playing the chord tones over this chord. Now, Branford Marsalis can do anything that he wants to over any chord at any time. And over this, he just chooses to arpeggiate the chord. So it's not about, a lot of times it's not about the notes that you're playing. It's about how you're playing them, right? And Branford really shows us that. He's playing something as basic as it gets, 1s, 3s, 5s, and 7s, but it sounds amazing the way that he does it and the fluency with which he plays it. So then as we move into bar 6 of the bridge, we see him start on the 13th of the A7 chord. And then he does something very, very interesting. He goes to the flat 13 of that A7 chord. So he starts on the 13 on the F sharp, moves to 2 F naturals, which is the flat 13. Then he jumps down to the 3rd, does 3, 9, 1, 7. So that's very, very simple, very diatonic. And then he moves into the D major 7 chord, which is going to resolve this 2, 5, 1. And we hear him play 3, 4, jumps up to the 13, then all the way up to the 9, and back to 1. So that's also a pretty simple measure. But again, it's not about what he's playing. It's about the confidence and time feel and sound with which he's playing it. So hopefully this will illuminate some of the kind of simple things that you can do over a tune like this that sound really, really good. I think a lot of us are a little bit too concerned with, well, I've got to play the hippest, most out stuff available to me at all times. Well, you really don't have to do that. You can play something simple, but if you've practiced your feel enough, if you're playing in tune, if you're playing with a really, really great sound on your instrument, it doesn't have to be the hippest, most out thing possible. It can be very, very simple as long as you're placing things in the right place and doing it the right way. All right. So make sure you grab the PDF for this. There's a lot of great material that you can transfer into your own playing. Let me play it for you one more time before we say goodbye so you can hear it again after we've talked about it. So hopefully now you can hear some of the things that we went over in this episode, and you can use some of that material to your advantage and put it in your own solos, put it over some other tunes, whatever you want to do with it. Make it your own, rewrite it, whatever kind of suits your fancy on this. That's really what we're trying to do with this vocabulary that I'm showing you. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you send them to 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. And you can also reach out on our Facebook page, leave a post on the wall, and we could start a discussion. And thanks again to Rejuvenate for sponsoring this episode. We really appreciate them, and we really appreciate the great product that they are putting out each and every day that I know for a fact has changed the lives of a lot of the reed players out there. So thanks to Rejuvenate. Make sure you go and check them out, rejuvenate.com. All right, everybody, we'll see you next week. Remember, we do need your help on Patreon, so if you can manage to throw $3 a month our way, we'd really appreciate it, and it will make sure that these podcast episodes keep coming at you each and every week. Have a great weekend. Make sure you get some practicing in, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.